Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a ton of books. And this is the video to wrap up November 2025, in which I was a moderator for Netgalley November, hosted by Nicole at Dusty Book Sniffers and Coda at Coda Means Friend, also known as Nicoda. Along with Vanessa at Read with Dr. B. They put on an awesome event. A lot of us read a lot of ARCs and maybe got a few more, but that happens. It was a lot of fun. We did pull off the 24/7 sprint train the entire month, so that was good. It's always a little shaky after a while because it's hard to guess what kinds of commitments people have at the beginning of the month. So there were some thin spots, but it worked. And Coda and Nicole did not look nearly as harried as they did after Kooky. So I think that things were a little smoother on their end with doing the 24/7 thing too. And I'm betting that the next one that they do that for, which I'm thinking is probably Kooky, Kooky Mayhem, the month is in the name, that'll be in May, focusing on the ebooks that you have on your Kindle Unlimited, that kind of thing, or if you're like me and you don't really do Kindle and Kindle Unlimited, my ebooks are my ARCs. So I just treat Kooky as another ARCs event. And there's other people that do that too, and you don't have to read ebooks even. It's like Netgalley November. Read whatever you want. But a lot of people will be focusing on their ebooks during May. And the announcement for that won't come out for quite some time because we're still in 2025 and that's 2026. But keep that in mind. Don't overstack your schedule too much when we get to that part of the year next year, because you will want to join. It will be fun. So in the meantime, though, we need to wrap up November so I can move on to December. I finished 2 more print books in the time since my last update. So I will show them. And I actually finished them using audiobooks when I couldn't do print and vice versa. So these are the print copies. The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julia Leong, and Ready Player One by, I should remember the author, by Ernest Cline. I enjoyed both. I think I liked Ready Player One slightly more, even though I'm not a video game person. I'm still someone that grew up in the 80s, so nostalgia factor probably helped. I finished 25 ARCs in November and 20 books that I have in print. Or, books that were not ARCs, because some of them were audiobooks to get to the ARC for Number One Ladies Detective Agency, so I include those in that number. Whether I had them in print or not, I had a few. It was a good month. I think that brings me up to 45 finished things for November. So not my record, but not bad, considering that there's also Thanksgiving thrown in there and working at the bookstore and rehearsing for a weird no script kind of improv dinner theater thing that I'm involved in with the bookstore. It should be fun. Experimental. It may or may not work. Anyway, so I am getting ready for December now. It is December 1st, so I should be ready. But I was doing Netgalley until last night. Yeah. I did go to bed. I did not stay up late enough to be in Dee Dee's hangover sprints, unfortunately. her sprints would have been 2 a.m. my time, and it started snowing. And I realized that I would want to be up at about 8 o'clock to be able to shovel this stuff while it's still cold, because it's nice and light and fluffy when it's cold, and it's easier to shovel because it hasn't really gripped the ground yet. So I was able to get the alley and the sidewalks and the walks that are within the yard shoveled enough, because we have another snowstorm probably coming in about 2 days. Yeah. So there's that. I spent most of today shoveling. It was exciting. I got a good workout. I feel like I spent the day at the gym, because I kind of sort of did. It was different from what I'd planned for my day off. So I'm doing this video, listening to an audiobook. I'm listening to Old Soul by Susan Barker. It was a slow start. I wasn't sure if I was going to be into it for the first 2 chapters. But by about chapter 4, you start to work out what's creepy or weird that's going on. And it starts getting good. And I'm enjoying it. I'm still only at 60%, so I'm not that far. I don't know how it ends yet, whether I'm going to like the ending or not, all that fun stuff. But I am enjoying it. That one I'm listening to is an audiobook from the library. I also, while listening to that audiobook, went on Hoopla and picked some more audiobooks, because it's the new month, new audiobooks. And we have Hoopla Flex through our library, in addition to just the standard Hoopla. That's something that libraries can choose which services they're going to opt into, I think, for Hoopla. Hoopla Flex, you can have 10 total out at a time, and when you return one, you can get another one. And then the standard is just we get 10 Hoopla checkouts. So total of, well, I could max it out at 20. I think I left myself 1 or 2 of the standard checkouts. And maybe 1 of the flex checkouts. It's always wise to grab those ones when they're available, because by the time you want them, they may not be. So they tend to be newer or things that have been listed somewhere. Yeah. Not always. Some of them are weird. Like, I'm not sure why they're available in Flex, but anyway, so I have a bunch more audiobooks to play with. And I will do a video about my TBR explicitly. Talking about my selection of audiobooks for the month and all that kind of stuff. So for my Read What You Own challenge, if you were around for that, it's not a long video. It's actually like 12 minutes, which is rare for my videos. But I said I was going to do a glass jug. I decided to do this instead. It's got cat prints on it. I like cats. So it's also plastic, which means it's not going to break and it won't get too heavy. So since Read What You Own started in November, this will be adding coins to the jar time for November. So for my getting coins, I get a quarter for every book that I finished that was a 6-hour, or something that I explicitly picked. So there is one that I finished for sure, the Children's Bible, that was a 6-hour. That's a quarter. And I did tally up what I got from the previous Read What You Own coin reward thing. I earned myself a whole $1.15 before I started forgetting to use the system. Not very good. But here's a quarter for the children's Bible. And then I need another quarter because the Little Drummer Girl is also one. So hold on, I'm going to get a quarter. All right, so I got some more coins because Little Drummer Girl, which is in the stack behind my head, was also a 6 hour. I don't usually get less pretty books for my 6 hours because I like to pick ones I'm actually going to keep forever. But I don't keep most books I've already read. So, yeah. Anyway, quarter, Little Drummer Girl. So that's 2. And then the rest of the books that I finished, the poetry books were all from a bag of books sale. So each one of those gets a nickel, 5 cents. Because I'm trying to incentivize actually reading those. So that is 1, 2, 3, and auto epitaph. So 4 poetry books. So that would be 20 cents. I'll use 2 dimes because that saves having to find all the coins. So 2 dimes, that's 4 5-cent books. I'll put it in the correct jar. This one I got just as a rescue off the recycling shelf. It was pretty good. But again, as I talked about in my previous update, my concept of buildings does not get as sappy as his. And when I look at a building, I don't think in terms of his rather poetic terms necessarily. So, very French. And yeah. So, that one would be a penny. Of course, I don't have as many pennies in this jar. There's one. Okay, so 1 penny for that one. Tip out some coins. Alright, I'm going to put this back so I don't break it. That's really why I went with the plastic jar, because the breaking jars thing is concerning. So I like to not have to worry about breaking the things I'm playing with. I am going to do this one as the equivalent of a 6 hour, because this is a special category. These are, this one anyway, it's one of the books I got as a print copy from a Goodreads giveaway. So I don't have a lot of them. I haven't really been entering those contests anymore. But when I was getting a lot of books for a while. And this is one. I liked The Unworthy better, but this one's definitely intense. So, quarter for that one. Then we have... This one is just borrowed from a friend, so it doesn't get anything. That one's a poetry book we already did. These two, A's for Alibi and Land, are ones that I just acquired them. So they're both a penny. So 2 pennies for those. Don't fall over. That would be exciting and not in a good way. This one similarly is just borrowed from a sibling. So it does not get anything. This one, however, does get a penny, because I did acquire it and not from a bag of book sale. So here's a penny for that one. Alright, I'm going to put this stack where it's not going to fall over. I'll be right back. Okay, these are the rest of my print books that I've finished up. This one we already got the quarter for. So there's Little Drummer Girl by John le Carré. This one, The First 15 Lives of Harry August. It's good. Immortals. What it's like to be an immortal. All the troubles that go with being immortal. Since it was Bag of Books, it gets a nickel. So, here's a nickel. We Are Not Ourselves by Matthew Thomas was really good. It is on the Dublin Literary Award long list for a previous year. This one also was a Bag of Books book. I had not heard of it. It just looked good. So here's a nickel for that one. And this one actually was a 6-hour. So I do get a quarter for it. I will be taking it back to the bookstore, but it was a 6-hour. So, quarter for that one. All right. And so now I've got all my cash in my little jar for November. But one thing that came up in chat during Netgalley November was the idea of considering the arcs that you have to be books that you own for Read What You Own. I do like that idea because it incentivizes finishing them, which is important. And since I finished 25 arcs in November, I'm going to count them on the penny scale. So 1 penny per arc finished, which means 25 adds up to another quarter. So this will be all the pennies for all those arcs. And now I've actually got all the cash that I've earned for my reading in November. Yeah, so we're not breaking the bank just yet, but there's some in there. And I actually already think I have more money in there than I had in the previous game. So, yeah, not too bad. And the next video will be my TBR. I will probably also do that one tonight, seeing as I've got the light on and everything. So after this after this video posts, then I will probably move on to the next one, delete the previous video, and my computer can't handle having more than one video stored on it at a time. Yeah. So, that will probably also be tonight, because you can see behind me where I put the jar, where the shelf with the heart, like let's see, right there. So that's where my finished books go. It's also where I put my TBR until I have enough finished books to switch out what it is. So I actually did do that for November. Like, I put books on there. Like, these are ones I want to get to in November. And I did. Like, all of them. So, I don't know what happened. The aliens or something. But I kind of like that method because I can't fit all my books on that little shelf. So it really limits what my actual core TBR is for the month to just what's actually going to fit on there. And I am starting to focus a little bit more on actually trying to read the books that are on long lists and short lists. I have a lot of them. I just need to actually read them. And I have access to a lot of them at the bookstore. I just need to read them. A lot of my audiobooks are actually ones that were shortlisted or longlisted for the Booker. And a lot of them probably show up on more than one prize list. So I'm focusing a little bit more on that. Not to the exclusion of everything else, but it's nice to actually make progress on some of those goals. So I probably won't fill up that shelf behind me with books on prize lists unless I specifically want to read that one book. But they're also just generally available as TBR books. And I do have a short stack of library books still that I need to finish so that I can return them. Probably by 2 weekends from now, because this coming weekend is the first weekend of December. The second weekend of December, we will be doing our stitching group at the library, which is when I always end up getting books. So my goal is going to be to finish those library books by that weekend so I can turn them in when I'm there. Because even though I work across the street from the library, I almost never actually go to the library, except when our stitching group is meeting there. So anyway, so next video will be the TBR video. I had a lot of fun doing Netgalley November. Thank you to all of the co-hosts, and especially to Nakota and Vanessa for making this event happen. I did actually finish a lot of arcs. I also got 109 new arcs that I didn't have at the beginning of the month. But, who's counting, right? And I don't think that I was the record holder for a number of new arcs acquired during November. We found out during the month there are other people in our community who have more arcs than me, who get more arcs than me, and make me look mild to moderate in my enthusiasm for arc collecting. Yep. So that's kind of fun. And you know who you are if you are one of those. I think I have a couple people who are following my videos occasionally who are in that club. And I will be trying to read a lot of arcs. I am actually going to try and read 20 arcs minimum per month. Probably more than that, because there are some that aren't really reading arcs. There's one that's origami. I know a couple people got it. But I have that one, and I actually do want to play with it. I've got some origami paper that was donated, and we weren't sure what to do with it at the store, so, okay. We don't sell loose sheets of random origami paper. But I was able to adopt it, so now I have origami paper that I can play with, and some old maps, like atlases, that are out of date by enough that we're not going to sell them. They're not really useful because the roads have changed since then. But they're not old either. They're just outdated. So that will actually make some fun origami paper. So I will be playing with that. If I finish anything worth showing off, I will show it off when I finish that arc. And yeah, I've got a couple food, like cooking and things like that, arcs. I have a lot of short ones, but when I actually go looking for them, I forget which ones they actually are. So I've started making lists on my Netgalley to keep all the short ones where I can find them. So that might help. Mine tend to be 200 to 300 pages, looks like the average for what I end up with, which seems pretty reasonable because I read a lot of literary fiction. So anyway, before we get any longer, I'm going to wrap this one up because we're actually shorter than normal by about half. How does this happen? We even did the tallying up the cash thing. Yeah, and we're still short, so that's lovely. Yeah. So I will touch base with you again in the next video. And I will probably talk a little bit about November still in the next video, because I still have to think about which books were my favorites and stuff. I haven't really settled on that, but that'll be in the next video. And yeah, have a great first week of December for your reading. Let me know what you're reading or what you want to be reading. And how did November go? And did you achieve your goals? And do you have any carryovers that you started in November and are going to finish in December? I have a few of those. Yeah, let me know. And I will, as kind of always, kind of usual, put the list of the arcs I finished especially in the description. I might just do the list of everything that I finished in the description, but I'll definitely do the arcs so that you can see when they're supposed to come out, and be watching for them if they look exciting. Yeah. Oh, and we're going to get to half an hour. Of course, because I forgot, I haven't actually talked about the ones that I finished for the last weekend of Netgalley November. So we'll throw those in the end here, because that was the non-fiction November. I can't remember where the arc part fits into that name. Non-fic arc November? It might be. Anyway, yeah, that did not stick in my brain at all. But the last weekend of November, which was the last 2 days of November, were dedicated to nonfiction, in honor of Nonfiction November, which exists in other places online, but not on YouTube officially this year because the official hosts are not doing it. Or host. I think the one person that was kind of the core of it is not doing it anymore. So it is still around elsewhere, though. It was around before them and will probably be around after them. Just right now it's on hiatus or something. Anyway, so I finished one that I'd already started called Seeking Home by Eva Richter, which was really interesting, about a woman, Eva Richter, it's a memoir, who grew up in China as the daughter of German Jewish physicians who went to China ahead of some of the more obvious nastiness that Germany was doing to the Jews. And they saw that it wasn't really working out. They weren't going to find jobs. They weren't getting any, respect as people with medical degrees, and they needed to go somewhere. And at that point, they didn't actually know how dangerous it was going to be. But they got out. They went to China with their daughter. I don't remember if she was born in China or if she was born before they moved. But she grew up in China in one of the concessions, which are sections of cities in China set aside for different countries, where it's like an embassy that the rules for that country apply in that space. More or less. They still are subject to certain Chinese oversight. But they're fascinating places. Empire of the Sun, a lot of that takes place in a concession. I think British concession. I think that's where the Richter's family was. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so she grows up as a kid watching all the stuff going on with before and during World War II, and then the Civil War that resumed as World War II ended in China, pitting Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong against each other, and leading to eventually the Cultural Revolution that killed millions and millions of people and set back China in so many ways. It was horrible. I've read a lot of books that are set in that part, and that's dark stuff. This one is more just, you can see the glimmers of the darkness that's coming. But she gets out, again, before it gets really bad, but just barely. So it's really an interesting perspective. Highly recommend. Again, it's called Seeking Home, a World War II refugee childhood in war-torn China. And, of course, my Goodreads does not tell me anything about when it is coming out, so that will be in the description. The other one that I finished was Who's Allowed to Protest by Bruce Robbins. This one, I'm not sure if it's an updated version of something that was written before. That was kind of my impression when I got it. But as far as I can tell on the Goodreads page that I was looking at more recently, it doesn't look like that. So I don't know. But it is looking at protest and free speech and stuff going on now versus McCarthy era. And, it's not really partisan. I think if you were extreme MAGA, you might find a lot of the history unfamiliar because it's the stuff that tends to get cut out of the narrative in order to make the MAGA perspective work. So you might find it a little disorienting if that is your stance going into it. But if that is the case and you want to read it, just be ready to do more in-depth research. And by research, I mean, cross-reference it with lots of sources, watch some documentaries, read some memoirs, read, whatever kinds of sources you can find that are first person and people that have the education and the background to understand what they're looking at when they're writing. So not just a podcaster. I would not be a fit source for what's going on. I have the background that if I did my research and had it backed up by references, then you could take what I'm saying as, secondary, tertiary, probably tertiary source. But I would not be a good source for knowing for sure that something happened. So yeah, it would be a good starting point if you find some of it unfamiliar. And if you are liberal, you might similarly find it a little bit too centrist for your taste. But again, do your research, cross-reference. When I'm reading things that challenge my worldview, my first knee-jerk reaction is to look up several other books that are about the same topic by a variety of authors and looking for, primary sources, secondary sources, sources that are close in time to what I'm trying to find out about, and then sources that are closer to my time that have the benefit of hindsight and all the research that's come since. And if everybody is kind of zeroing in on a similar story, and you'll find that after a while, there ends up being a similar story that gets backed up in all those different ways. And you can start to recognize when some of them are a bit off because, it's unlikely that one is the only right person and everyone else is wrong. There are a lot of people that have made their graduate careers correcting such flaws in other people's research. And if it was that glaring a flaw, somebody would be getting rich off of it. Yeah. Although actually, I don't know. People are getting rich off of it anyway because people are gullible and don't have the education to know better. So I don't know. Anyway, a little bit of a rant. If you've still been watching to this very end of the video, you're watching someone that finds political theory really interesting. Oh, and Who's Allowed to Protest is political theory. So there's a lot of terminology that you may want a dictionary for if you're unfamiliar with theory. It's not too hard for someone that doesn't have a background like I have. I have a master's basically in political theory. So I found it refreshing because I haven't read that subject matter for a while. But yeah, sociopolitical theory. Really good. Has some really good points. It's only 160 pages. Again, I highly recommend it. 5 stars. And I will talk about the other arcs that I was reading for this past weekend when I finish them. So those will be in my first wrap up for December. So now I am going to sign off. 34 minutes instead of 23 minutes. But I had to talk about those 2 books. Okay, we're good. Alright, so I will see you guys in the next video or on chats somewhere in somebody's live sprints. There's still lots of them going on. And I will maybe even scare up the link for the BookTube Bible that Christina maintains so that you can find more sprints now that the sprint train for Netgalley November is over. So I might put that in the description as well. And I will see you guys in the next video or somewhere on the interwebs. Bye, guys!